It's streaming.
easier to kind
Live.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Streaming, it's live.
I know we're gonna go the other way, but that is going, that's going to, it's not gonna go over the bridges. On the, you know.
This is the different, this is the that's stone. So we're trying to figure out.
Wish they had this view.
I know.
Going live kind of killed the conversation.
No more free conversations.
All right, it is 6:30. I will call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The consent agenda, approve the items below which are included in the consent agenda, which is 6A, the meeting minutes from the October 1st meeting, and 8B, the special education. May I have a motion to accept this consent agenda?
Yes.
I'll
Colleen?
second.
Thank you, Karen. Any discussion? If not, please vote. We're going to-
I'll have to try.
Thank you. And I take it we are.
Liam just needs to vote.
File, yeah.
Yes, okay. That's 6 yes.
6-4-0 against, motion passes. For the good of the cause, this is where we set aside some time for public participation in the board-related matters. The general rules of public participation will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Anyone who wants to speak should state their name and sign in the sheet. Does anybody like to speak? Sure.
Hi, I just wanted to say hello again. I know I was just here a few weeks ago, but I wanted to let everyone know that Dr. Patania had responded to some of those questions. And then I responded with just the things that I know, and I only know things from my end. I don't really have any official information. But there was I think, I just wanted you to know what parents got, because some of the things that you had found didn't match up. And I know these things change. So this is the copy of what was mailed from the transportation department for the middle school, high school bus schedule with lists of all the stops. And this is before the start of the school year. So obviously they start doing the buses and they realize that maybe not all of this is going to be the same as it is now. And I didn't receive an elementary one this year. Those aren't mailed home consistently. So 1 year we didn't get it at all. Another year we got it without the Wilmington afternoon route on it. That was actually 2 different years. So I'm not sure if that one exists or if they were able to put one together this year or not. But you can see the afternoon, one's the morning side and one's the afternoon side. And I think the glaring thing that I see when I look at the afternoon side is the 8-inch long Wilmington bus schedule compared to the rest of the routes. And there's some significant differences in time and number of stops. And I understand that in the afternoon, it's random which kids ride. It's not consistent because so many students stay after for different activities. So I know it's hard to get a really good handle on which of those. But I mean, the bus still has to hit most of that same route. There's not that many roads in Wilmington, so it's not like it can cut out, a road because 1 or 2 kids aren't on it. Most likely they're going to have to follow that route. They just might not stop as often. And the same thing can be said for like classic routes. If the Wilmington bus route is proportionately shorter, they will be as well because they have athletes staying and students staying after school for other reasons as well. So that was just information. I know everyone's working on it.
And just so the board knows, you have the answers I provided in your information for today. So
And I added to that, so I'm in blue now.
There, we'll see how.
So I just want to make, so it's like get confusing, I changed my responses to your responses to blue.
Mary, I'm just curious if you have a proposed solution.
I think on that document, I shared some of my ideas, and because they're really strictly opinions that, you know, and I don't understand the logistics, I think that it would have to be something that would have to just be looked at. But I think the big chunk of what I've talked about is really just keeping the Wilmington bus for Wilmington students
Right.
and not having all those other stops. And there's a St. Agnes piece as well for the elementary that that seems to be have a big impact on the length of time the students are on the bus. And that middle school, that process for students who want to stay 10th period, you know, 10th period is supposed to be, and it is, it's a wonderful opportunity for students who are falling behind, or my son's used it because he was absent already, and he stays after for Science Olympiad. But it's almost like a punishment for a Wilmington student because you stay 10th period and now you're not going to get home for another hour and a half on top of that. And you're going to go to an upperclassman study hall, and then you're going to catch a bus, and then you're going to, and you know, it just adds on to, I mean, he wouldn't get home until 4:30, something like that, just for staying until 2:45. So it just seems like that's a not an ideal situation for any student, but and it'll go away next year because he'll be modified and he'll stay, but you know, in between sports seasons and for sixth graders, it really seems like it's a poor plan.
Aren't all the, if you look at the bike route in the afternoon for Wilmington, aren't those all Wilmington addresses though?
In that situation, it is, except for Northwood and Lake Placid Clubway.
Which is essentially just on the road to Wilmington.
It's
so-
not, they say that is, but if you really went from the school to the Sunoco station and drove right into the notch, you could shave 5 to 10 minutes off from going up. And I don't think that they're, yeah, this isn't the bus that goes up Northwood driveway. The elementary bus used to go all the way up Northwood driveway and go right to the front doors. This one probably is just at the corner of Vista and Northwood. Yeah, that situation there is all Wilmington. But it's the elementary buses that do more. In fact, there's the one morning bus that goes all the way down River Road. And so yeah, that one wouldn't have as big of an impact just with those two, but I think at this point, every minute would count.
So it's not essentially the high school, middle high school bus route, it's more the elementary one that you're referencing?
No.
Because I don't know, I'm just looking at this, and with the exception of the Northwood, like Classic Club stop, that probably takes 5-6 minutes, the rest of it is pretty much all attributed to Wilmington.
Right,
I don't
and in
know
the
how you
morning,
get
they
around that.
split that between 2 buses.
So this continues to be looked at, and as you know, appreciate your comments and your concerns towards the bus routes. Anybody have anything?
I just echo the thanks for being an advocate for the kids.
Anyone else have anything? No, we'll move on to reports to the board. External audit report, Mr. Tom Kelly is here. He met with the audit committee at 6 o'clock. We reviewed the 2018-19 audit. And he's here to provide some highlights.
Great. Thank you for having me.
We already apologize for not having the small children before you.
Actually, they were high school children who were very talented. So
Yes.
they were hard.
Warmed up the numbers.
Yeah. So, okay. Once again, thank you. I will. I'll take you to page 1. This is the audit report.
Don't.
Or do you have
We have the e-copy.
PDF?
We have
Yeah.
electronic.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay, good. There were a couple of extra copies if you
Yeah, hold on to it, hard copy.
Okay. So these are your financial statements, and the auditors are a third party that come in. Much of this is because you receive grants, money from federal government, state government, so that we're giving an opinion on your financial statements. We do audit tests, that those paragraphs are in here to kind of give you information on what we do. But that bottom paragraph is our audit opinion, and it's a good opinion that, in our opinion, the financial statements, in all material respects, represent the financial position of the school district in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We quantify materiality as accountants, so we're not saying that everything is exact to a number. We also, there are estimates that are used in here too, so I will get into that in a minute. We also have a letter that is from the accounting firm to the governing body, and in this case, it's sort of it's a management letter, sort of saying how the audit went, and here it does list some of the estimates that are used to come up with the financial statement, but it also has things like if we had any difficulties in performing the audit, this would be our opportunity to alert the board about that. If we had any material adjustments, or if we propose any adjustments that management decided not to put in, this would be our opportunity to present those. If we had any disagreements with management, we didn't have any, so here again, this is good. It all went very well. We thank you for your help, and so we appreciate. It was a nice environment to work with. We didn't have any significant entries to make. Okay. Let me take you to, try to be brief, but if I take you to page 11, this is the balance sheet for under governmental fund accounting, and I'm going to show you another balance sheet which is on the accrual basis, but let me just kind of walk my way through it. Fund accounting is it's pretty much cash basis. It doesn't account for things like building and grounds, any long-term debt. Any debt you incur is revenue. Any capital expenses that you incur, like you have your building a project going on, is an expense. So, anyways, as you can see, under fund accounting, if you go way over to the far right column, this is all your funds. The second line up from the bottom, you have a fund balance of $3.8 million. The total assets is $6.8 million, and you have liabilities of about halfway down, about $2.8 million. So that is good. I don't mean to be using descriptions like that, but let me take you over to page 44. This is a page you might want to take a look at sometime. Good to call your attention to it. This is the budget, this is the general fund, this is your actual results. They're in the middle column, that third column, versus your budgeted amounts. A couple of numbers to point out that would be of interest to you. Go right down to the bottom. You can see that there's $253,000. It's excess of revenues over expenditures, so that is healthy. But if you look up on about a third of the way down, column 2, you had appropriated in the budget $520,000. You were going to use $520,000 to help bring your fund balance down. Instead of using that, you actually had a $250,000 positive. This is in the general fund. So if I take you to page 13, and I'll try not to keep you droning on too long. This is fund accounting. We're still there. This is the Statement of revenues and expenditures, and the change in fund balance. Go down to the very bottom line, over in the very first column, the third from the bottom line, there's the 253,000, that's the general fund. If you go, to point out that you have your building upgrade project is going on, you go to that third column, that's your capital projects fund, you can see that you incurred 609,000 of capital project improvements. So essentially, we're taking that as an expense on the fund accounting. That means you have a negative, all over the last column, negative results from all your funds of the 300,000. And
Sorry,
sure.
how can that be? Negative 300,000?
That is because if you take the general fund of the 250,000, the third line up from the bottom, and just go all the way across,
Yeah,
you get over to that third column, that is the fixed assets that were added during the year, and under fund accounting, they're expensed. So it's so you had $600,000 of projects, the long-term capital improvements that were expensed during the year. I can show you, I hate to drag it all over the place, but if you go to page 33, you might find that interesting. That's your notes on your capital projects. I'm getting a bit into the weeds, but it might be helpful for reading later too. On page 33, about halfway down, in the second column, you can see the addition. So you have the beginning of the year balances, you have your construction progress is of 600,000, and then you can see that if you go all the way down to the bottom right hand, you have $13 million of buildings, transportation, land improvements, equipment. Okay. So if you go to an accrual basis accounting, which you're now required to report, you can go to page 12. You take the balance sheet that we were just looking at, that's in the first column, then you have to add in the second column, all long-term assets and long-term debt. You can see there's a 13 million, it's about quarter of the way down under your assets, you're bringing that across, so you're adding that, you're stepping your way over to an accrual basis. But you can also see that if you go down to about 2/3 of the way down, you're in the liability section, you're bringing in about 51 million of liabilities, actually plus another 15 of deferred liabilities. And of that, is that big number, the 48 million, that is the other post-employment benefits.
the retirement.
That is the health insurance. Yep. Retirement is in here too. So the retirements are funded with the teacher's retirement system. You're a participant in that trust and the employee's retirement system. Those have been pretty well funded. So the effect is the teacher's retirement is an asset. It's that 740,000 got brought in. The employee's retirement was a liability. So I sorry getting into the weeds here, but that is a big number to know. And the summation of that is over on page 9. That's the balance sheet under government-wide, under the accrual basis. And you can see you have 25 million of assets, that's about a third of the way down. Your liabilities, 53 million of liabilities, most of that is that post-employment benefit. Another 15 million is deferred, so you actually have a net position, a negative 43 million, which is, those are big numbers just to be aware of. I'll say one other thing, and then I hear myself kind of droning on. In the back, there's a report, that's on page 50, 3, 4, and 5. This is a report on the district's internal control system and then compliance. And as you've had for many years, and many school districts have this, there is a compliance issue. Internal controls are fine. We have no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in here. But there is the compliance of the New York State law is that the unassigned fund balance in the general fund should not exceed 4% of the next year's general fund budget. And heard this other times, so. Okay, so that's what that is. Okay.
Sorry to put it on the record one more time.
Yeah,
Right, I
sorry. That's starting to get boring, okay. So maybe I'll just see if there are any directions you want me to go, or any questions, and thank you very much for having our firm. We totally appreciate working here. Nice, well run.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone have any questions?
I mean, just some comments. It seems that generally our position's pretty well. I was looking at our debts. I don't want to get too far in the weeds either.
Yeah,
but, that our debt, why I thought that there was a reduction, is that what I saw? But
well, that big number, and I'll just show you where to take a look at it. If you go to page 40 and 41, and a few pages earlier than that, it's got information on the teacher's retirement and these are numbers that are determined by actuaries. But the big number on page, you can see on 40, they're the variables, the actuarial assumptions. Like inflation is in there, and salary increases, discount rate, what they think healthcare costs are going to go. And you can see that on 41, you can see if you make a 1% difference in either the discount rate or what the healthcare trend is going to be, and there's a big swing as to how it affects that liability.
thank you.
Any other comments, questions? No, okay, Mr. Telling on their own.
All right,
Thank you so
I
much.
get to go home.
Good work.
Thank you very
Won't
much.
keep you too late.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is the treasurer's report.
That's me.
Mr. Wood.
So you'll see that September was a good month in terms of bringing in revenue. We have $8.4 million that get moved into our cash sweep. That's typical this time of year, as September is the big month in terms of collecting taxes. And that's why you kind of see the sweep being so large, is because of it. It will be coming down as the year progresses, because once the property tax comes in, it slows down in terms of revenue, other than from state aid and stuff like that. So that will trickle in over the year and push through. But if you look there in terms of a depository, total is a little over $16 million sitting in the bank right now. We don't have a lot outstanding, a little over $400,000 there. But all said, if you look at this compared to previous years, we're kind of on target in terms of the month of September when it comes to our treasury report. It was a little more time consuming in terms of reconciling it, because we have 8,000 tax bills that come in, and I would say 90% of them come in the month of September. So it's a lot on the part of Betsy and Lori Baumbach and Tracy Ridenauer in terms of processing and all of it and trying to stay on top of it on a daily basis, to ensure that it's not sitting in the safe instead of being in the bank. So that's kind of where we are with our reconciliation and the treasury report.
Dana, this $311,000, is that a BOCES? They tend to be BOCES. The outstanding.
They typically are, but September bill for BOCES probably would have been more in that 130,000. The 311 could easily be something connected to our capital projects. Yep. 927, that would be something, a payment went there. We've had a couple sizable payments to our general contractor over the last month.
Thank you. Any questions, comments on the treasurer's report?
I know I've asked you this before, and you've probably told me very clearly, but it didn't stick in my brain. What happens to the interest on that 16 million? Do we earn that somehow?
Yes, so when you look at the budget status reports, you will see we got other tax items, charges for services, things like that. Interest that we generate through the cash sweep does get reported as revenue,
Cool.
yes.
That falls into miscellaneous?
It would fall under charges for services.
Okay.
Use of money?
Because we have
Money.
two in terms of interest, we have some,
Yeah.
when it comes to charges as well as use of money.
Okay.
In terms of where the interest goes, as well as our tuition and stuff like that from out of
It's
district
also in the
students.
treasurer's report, at the very bottom line,
So you look here,
NBT is interest payments, 13,862.69.
right, that's from our cash sweep is where we generate our interest. Goes back to where we give it to MBT and they spread it out over a whole bunch of banks, so that we're still federally insured. Because if we were sitting on $10 million just in NBT Bank, and we're only insured up to, what, 250,000, so that's why we spread it out over a bunch of banks, so that in case something was to happen, we get all our money back. And we do generate some interest. I think the interest right now is about 1.7, 1.8%, which is actually fairly good when looking at other financial institutions.
Is
Had
it,
one recently trying to solicit our business, and there wasn't enough change to warrant switching.
are we up on tuition? Is that what I saw maybe that was in the treasurer's report? This is miscellaneous from the year, it says 200.
We are, if you look at it, we have two lines, if you go to the
There's a
second
small line in
page,
our revenue,
yes, we have about $16,000 in revenue, we budgeted 30,000. I think we're slightly, if you look at from last year, we're slightly down in terms of collection for tuition.
Okay.
And that's just more, again, timing.
Anyone else? If not, we'll go right to the budget status.
The budget status, you'll see that we brought in a little over $15.5 million in terms of our property tax, about 98% on par from previous years, if you look at that. Generally, that will probably stay pretty consistent at this point. Anything our taxpayers have until the end of October, early November to pay us directly, and then after that, the county takes over, and then come November, it gets re-levied on the person who hasn't paid it, and when the town bills go out in January, if they haven't paid their school tax, it's on there as well, with interest and stuff like that. So penalties and all that. So if you look, we are all said and done. We're slightly up in terms of what we've collected, 81% over 80% last year, but again, those always fluctuate from year to year when it comes to our revenue to date. You'll notice that not much has come in yet in terms of state and federal aid, but again, that's not unusual. We really don't start seeing our money come in from the state until December, January, because the first new payments, our state aid actually is our retirement system. So we get a bill for our retirement system, and then the state actually holds state aid until our retirement bill is paid. So rather than sending money to them, just to send the money back to us, they say, okay, you owe us $700,000. We will take this out for September, for October, for November to settle up on what we owe retirement system, and we don't get an actual refund check from the state until December or so. So that's where you'll see why the state aid doesn't really settle up until more so in the springtime. So-
Is the lottery coming around the same time? The lottery.
Yeah, it's interesting with the lottery, that kind of hit the same with Star. Star starts coming in late winter as well. Unfortunately, the federal aid, our pre-K, that's a year plus out. I know we haven't collected everything from a year ago in terms of our pre-K.
One other question here, it's a small amount, but the Ironman security and staff, that's reimbursed, correct?
Correct.
It's expense, but
Yes, yeah, when you see
Reimbursed,
that,
yeah.
when it says expense, it's actually, it's adding to that budget line. It's really a revenue
Okay,
source,
okay.
yes. So when you see that in the revenue side, that's actually money that we brought in. We did get a check from Ironman.
Thank you.
We don't pay them.
Good, thank you.
We don't.
That'd be a tough one to swallow.
Yes, we don't pay Ironman, but that's just the way it's reported in Envision, yep.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments on the budget?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So moving on, information for the board, there's 6 files attached. One on the extracurricular account summary, the itinerary for the 8th grade trip to Washington DC, the agenda for the 5th grade trip to Saratoga and Albany this Friday. I must say, in looking over those itineraries, they're quite impressive.
What great experiences for those kids.
Applies to the minute, actually, of what's going on, so Dan assures me that that's stuck to as well.
The Washington itinerary is quite impressive.
It is.
Yes.
And what a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. to
First year
cover.
they're going to the White House.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It really is.
Then there's 2 files on the invitation to attend the Clinton, Essex, Warren, Washington School Board Association program of New York State Next Generation Standards. That's November 14th. It's a Thursday night at the West Side Ballroom in Plattsburgh. There's also 24 pages of a lease agreement that I'm sure you all read.
I did.
I did as well.
I did, yeah.
That's the lease agreement, the proposed lease agreement between ORDA and the
Right,
school
we're just
district.
trying to keep the board up to date on some of the discussions that are going on.
Right.
Yeah.
But the lawyer says that lease agreement is not good.
So yeah, that's just an opportunity for us to share, what's out there, and our attorney continues to work on it. Absolutely. Mhm.
The law is pretty specific on what must be met, education law. So, somewhat conflicts with regular law, I guess, if you put it in those terms. And lastly is the bus transportation questions and responses. Any questions, comments on the information from the board? If not, we'll go right to the superintendent's report.
Okay, well, tonight we're going to start with a little bit of a celebration because today we honor you, our members of the Board of Education, as a part of the upcoming School Board Recognition Week. So this is a time that's set aside to recognize school board members for their commitment to New York public school children. And just to give you a little overview of what the intent of this week is. School board members are honored because they take on one of the most important citizen responsibilities, overseeing the education of the community's youth. Boards of education guide their local school systems and ensure public schools are flexible and responsive to the needs of the community. School boards are comprised of volunteers, most of whom, let's say in this room, all of whom, do not receive any compensation for their service. Board members are individuals within the community who dedicate their time to improving public education. So tonight we want to congratulate all of our Board of Education members, and we also want to thank all of you for all you do for children and for our entire community. So we have some things to honor you with. Yes, Karen is going to distribute, let me just have 1 second. Certificates. And the certificate honors each member of the Board of Education for dedicated leadership in public education and continuing service to the children of the Lake Placid Central School District.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And what else do we have, Karen?
I've got door prizes. We have lots of thank you cards from, and I'll just like give you guys each a handful of them. You can look at them like really nice.
Oh my gosh, from the children.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, my.
I know.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Exciting.
And you all can try to do the puzzle on the back of this.
And just as a little extra bonus, Karen has brought some treats for after the meeting. So thank you, Karen. Thank you, members of the Board of Ed.
You're most welcome.
So I have a bunch of other things. Which I don't want to interrupt your reading of the cards. But I did want to respond to a point raised at our last meeting. The question came up, Liam, I think you raised the question about whether police access to our security cameras poses a threat to privacy. So, you know, I did a couple things. I dug into our policies, and I also talked with our legal counsel, Bill Kissel, and he did not believe it was a threat to our privacy here, and here's some of the explanation for that. First of all, we have policy regulating security cameras. We actually have a very specific policy. 8210.1 is called use of surveillance cameras on school property, and then we have regulations that are attached to that policy to try and help guide our practices. And one of the things that it says a lot. I won't go into all of it, but it says law enforcement officials, chief of police or designee, shall be granted access to video recordings and after giving prior notice to the school superintendent or designee. So the police, of course, as part of our discussions, have agreed to follow our policy and regulations. So that's one thing. But number two, I think would make just more common sense. Our security cameras are only in public spaces. So we place our security cameras only in public areas where there's no reasonable expectation of privacy. Our practice follows that. And so any viewing of cameras is nothing you couldn't see if you weren't there, or anybody couldn't see if they were there. And then the agreement that we make with the police is really intended only to be used in case of emergency. The way it reads in our policy is disclosure of surveillance records shall be on a need-to-know basis and should comply with the district's policy objectives. This includes promoting the safety of students and staff, protecting district property, deterring and preventing criminal activities, and enforcing school rules and policies. So that's part of the guiding language there. If you feel like you want to address it more, if anybody wants to address it more, we can dig a little deeper. I wanted to provide you with that.
Thanks for the follow-up.
All right, that's the business side of things for my report. I also wanted to let you know what's coming up, and some of it you saw in information for the board. We have some field trips coming up. One of them is the the 5th grade field trip to Albany. We saw the itinerary for that, and then there's the 8th grade field trip. That's the leaving next Sunday to Washington D.C. So we have some exciting things that every 5th grader and every 8th grader has an opportunity to participate in at no cost to them. So that's a really wonderful piece of everything. And I want to say thanks to our fifth grade team, that's Mr. Fermonte, Ms. Majorca, Ms. Kelly, and the principal, Sonia Franklin, who organized that fifth grade event. The eighth grade is organized by a long list of people, especially our eighth grade team. And so, and that one is funded by a special fund, dedicated fund, that was set aside by the Lucy family to support our eighth grade field trip for in perpetuity. So we have some great field trips coming up. Also at the elementary school, we have a Math and Movement Family Fun Night coming up. That's next Wednesday from 5:30 to 7. This is the second year we've done it. So it's an opportunity to see how fun math can be. And we have mats and math games that people are able to use and to learn about how to use, including teachers as well as parents and students. So thanks to our elementary school math teachers, Amy Kramer and Jessica Kelly, who are behind the scenes putting that kind of event together. As far as the middle and high school goes, tomorrow, which is, yes, tomorrow is Wednesday, the 15th, so we'll be, sorry, the 16th, tomorrow's the 16th, and we'll be administering the PSAT on that day. So this is a national PSAT test date. This is a practice SAT. All of our juniors have an opportunity to take it. And because we agreed to participate in a study a number of years ago with the College Board, all of our juniors are able to take this exam for free. And looking at that, I thought it was interesting. You know, we have a goal to reduce the opportunity gap. To see how these kinds of efforts have grown over the years. So the PSAT is now free for all juniors in our district. You might remember that last year we were able to offer, through one of our budget line items, free access to the SAT and to be able to have juniors take it during the week as well. So we have an SAT test date that our school operates, allowing juniors to take that free as well. We also have put together an SAT prep class in late afternoon for juniors. It says it's intended for juniors, others could do it, but it's intended for juniors to prepare for that SAT test date. And then finally, an event coming up this Saturday, we have a special field trip, again, for our juniors. And this is an opportunity to go tour two different institutions, SUNY Albany and Siena College in the Albany area. And that will be this Saturday, and this is a trip funded by the Educational Opportunity Fund and organized by the English teachers, John Mullane, Brenda Gotham, and Amy Spicer. So, you know, thanks to the work of teachers like them, groups like the EdOp Fund, the school board, we're able to offer a lot of access to higher education opportunities for our junior class without those barriers that can tend to get in the way for young people. So I just think that speaks really highly of what we're trying to accomplish here. In addition, there's a lot of athletic events taking place over the next few weeks. The fall season is winding down. We start to honor, you know, the seniors as they complete their last fall season. Seniors in the boys soccer team are honored on Thursday. That's their last regular season home game. Senior girls soccer players were honored last week. Seniors in the volleyball and cross country teams will be honored over the next 2 weeks. And of course, that sort of marks nearing the end of the season. We then usually enter sectional playoffs and other end of year activities. That's going on, and then there are many more events between now and our next meeting, which is in the beginning of November. And that includes the high school fall play, which opens on Thursday the 24th, so a week from Thursday. We have the elementary school book fair, we have superintendent's conference day, we have the Halloween parade, we have middle school all-county music festival, all these coming about in the next few weeks. So a lot going on, a lot of great opportunities for kids to learn and grow and have some fun too. And that's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Along the lines of groups, organizations, and our students, you may or may not know, we had our half marathon this past Saturday. And several school groups and
teachers and staff participated, and it's very enlightening. It starts at 5 in the morning to see a group of high schoolers at 5 o'clock in the morning just willing to pitch in and work. And they all did a terrific job right up until 1 o'clock that afternoon. So it's nice. So, thank you. Linking goals with agenda items. Anyone?
I just wanted to go back one.
Sure.
You know, I'm all about the thank you notes. This is brilliant and wonderful. Whoever did this deserves a thank you note. But what I'm thinking about is the Lucy's. Do they get something like this?
They do, and they're, you know, among other things, they're honored at the 8th grade moving up ceremony in June. And so far, every year, Mrs. Lucy has been willing to come up on stage after the students have thanked her personally, and also sometimes as a part of their presentations, because this trip is such a key piece of their learning experiences. They build a lot of things around it. And so they're able to present that on that night and then thank her in person, and she's usually willing to come up and say a few words as well. So
That's
it's a really nice, I think, nice personal connection.
Thank you.
Students first and foremost with all of the field trips, which has been presented tonight.
PSATs fall under number 2, education. I have the onboarding, which we'll be discussing here shortly, is under number 4, which is leadership. Hopefully Jeff is watching and he has his pen and paper out.
He's emailing Karen now.
That's right. And any others? No, we'll move along to our next item, which is the capital project. As you all know, this is a standing agenda item with updates and progress. Tonight, we're being asked actually to make a decision, and it's about
You don't have to vote.
no,
That's right.
Feedback.
just
Yeah.
feedback, right?
Yeah.
The wall along School Street, and I'm sure you saw the pictures and so on and so forth. So I won't get into that. I'll let those that are in the know on that interject.
Okay, I guess that's an open.
Take it away.
Yeah, I'll talk, just jump right in there if you'd like. First of all, some progress since the last meeting. The ramp, the Cummings Road ramp is moving ahead. We expect to see concrete poured on the walkway tomorrow. It's covered already. So we're making good progress there. The elementary school loading dock is moving ahead. The bathrooms there are moving ahead. You see pictures in some of the documents on board docs tonight with that. What the wall is all about is, so there's a number of course, projects that are also being, worked on behind the scenes or being planned behind the scenes. So one was the wall. So you saw that the trees were cut down over the weekend in order to prepare for the wall construction. The wall construction that we have planned and priced involves a concrete barrier with a front of stone. So I think it's called a veneer.
For veneer.
Yeah, and what the contractor is proposing is to replace the stone veneer with pressed stone. In other words, it's concrete that would be pressed to look like stone. That's what the photographs before to let you see what that would look like. Their reasoning for proposing it's twofold. One is it would save the district money. That it's a round estimate right now of about $80,000. Not 100% sure if it's exactly going to be that or more or less, but that's an estimate. The other piece is timing. As you know, a lot of things go on the Oval in the summertime, and they're worried about being able to get the job done within the framework that we've set, which is somewhere between Ironman 1 and Ironman 2, a number of other events. At least that's part of it. That's not the whole thing. And so, they're thinking it would save time as well as save money. So they're floating that past us and asking us to give them some feedback about whether or not we want to make that change. And that's what the wall question is all about. And I would be glad to entertain your thoughts tonight or in the near future, because we'll probably need to make a decision in the coming days.
That's a tough one.
Well, Roger and I, we went down with Schoolhouse and someone from Luck Brothers. The picture that was just up there, that is actually a wall in Keeney that Luck Brothers had put up, I don't even think a year ago. So we were able to go and look at it. It's sort of what the APA is going with looks in the North Country here, as opposed to just concrete. And what they do is it is all concrete, it looks like stone. They do have someone come in and actually stain it to give its very colored look, to kind of give it that authentic display. The new bridge by the ski jumps, if you look underneath, you'll see it's the same format. A similar structure is at St. Agnes Church on their little walkway. That is also a concrete wall made to look like stone as well.
And in the notch, that's also going to Wilmington, the barrier walls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think what we gathered was anything in the last couple of years up here, they've really, the DOT APA have pushed for something like this for whatever reason. One thing I think we found is if you had a concrete barrier with veneer on it, you're going to run the risk of water eventually getting in between the rock and the concrete barrier and separating, whereas this right here is one piece.
And if you want to dig into some of the additional documents, some of the internal documents, offer the alternative. So one, our photographs and some of this discussion reflect some of the advantages of shifting the wall to the pressed concrete. And then we also have the alternative of supporting the design as it was originally made. So feel free to read those at one memo. Again, just any feedback would be welcome.
Well, it's a substantial savings, so.
It's substantial, yeah.
Yeah.
And really timing too, just now, because it's coming, going there. What's going on with the stone facade on the front?
Yeah. You want to make a promise about tomorrow?
Sure, we'll make a promise.
Yeah, so
because they
here-
made a promise. So they promised us they were going to be here today, but then they said, oh no, the machine's not going to be here until tomorrow. But as you know, the weather forecast does not look good for tomorrow. So I doubt they're going to show up tomorrow morning to work on it, but we have been told that when they do come this week, they will be staying until the stone comes and everything gets done, is what they have assured us when they show up.
So there's plenty of other things to talk about for the capital project, but feel free to ask any questions.
Any questions? Comments? Thank you very much. Discussion items, onboarding. I want to thank those who commented. There's still opportunity for those who did not have the opportunity or take the opportunity to comment. Next steps will be to respond to like executive summary to write. I'll take that on and write it. I have already gone through and made some grammatical changes that were suggested. I appreciate that feedback. Anything specific here? Go ahead and make changes. I know there was a question whether they should or not, but certainly make the changes. Yes, you did. It was fine. So most of those issues are resolved. Martha, I like your idea of putting an index together, or a table of contents. So go ahead and feel free to do that. No, I'll Did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
in Google Docs, so I would be happy to give it a try.
Sure. And it just so happens, because of the life I lead, I already read today's onboard that came.
Wow.
And if you go to Page 5, it says, to develop a governance handbook, your board can divide and conquer. Basically, what it is an onboarding process. So I'll be looking at the 10 bullet points that they put together here in the handbook and comparing them with what's already been put together, make sure that we have everything in according with the New York State School Board Association. So get in there, comment, and hopefully we can get this process completed shortly. Any questions, comments regarding this? The onboarding process? We should be ready to go by June. Next order of business is the bus garage reorganization. Since the last meeting, as you read, as you should have read, Dan, Roger, Dan, and myself met with representatives from the union just to pass by the different options, just to make sure that we're aligning ourselves with the union and we wouldn't get a kickback from them or resistance. So I thought the meeting went very well. We went over the same proposals that we had put forth, or Roger and Dana put forth last meeting. So with that said, which one of you would like to take this one on?
Well, I think where we're headed with our recommendation is posted for you. And it's, if you remember the original options were 1, 2, and 3. 1 was to remain fairly consistent with what we have been in the past. 2 was to make some changes, and then 3 was to replace some of the association member management with management confidential. After our discussion, we decided to rule out option 3, and then we made a recommendation that was somewhat of a hybrid between options 1 and 2. You want to talk about that?
Sure. What the recommendation really is kind of keeping the structure the way it has been in terms of having a head bus driver / grounds person overseeing both areas, but do away with the 10-hour contracted on a weekly basis. Previous positions had a built-in 10 hours extra, so the person was working 50 hours a week, and their salary was adjusted accordingly because they were putting in the time already. So bringing it back to what is kind of contractually correct, where the person is contracted for 8 hours a day, overtime is expected, but just like anyone else within the union, the bargaining union, they have to fill out the proper paperwork when it comes to the overtime. And then if you look at the structure, kind of keeping things relatively the same. We have 8 drivers and still having 8 drivers, but one of those drivers will be spending more of their time within the office, which we have already. One of our drivers is always putting in extra time during the day anyway to help with office work. This is just kind of making it more official, putting it in a 37.5-hour work week, 10 months. They are still a driver, but they're also going to be working in the office. One of the things that we looked at there is to stagger their times so that the head driver is coming in early, say at 6 a.m., but the person who is driving in, also working in the office, is coming in 8:30, 9 o'clock, so that we have someone in the office until 5 o'clock, so that we have someone covering the phones early morning, and we have someone covering the phones in the office in the afternoon. And that would help alleviate what was done in the past where the person was working a 10-hour day. And we kind of split that up, keeping it 2 mechanics that also drive, as well as the 2 grounds / custodians and driver. And then you'll see they're adding a 3rd person there as a transition, and keeping the head grounds position title there as a transition as well, temporary transition, as whoever gets the head driver slash grounds position. There's some overlap to help that person get into what's going on the grounds as well. We see that adding that other person also gives us another driver to access as well. So that is one of the reasons why having that person be a grounds person and a driver is so we have an additional driver that we can tap into that's already on staff. And we just shift them around from outside work to driving in the morning or afternoon, sports runs, so on and so forth. I've showed you, and you've seen this information already, potential additional costs associated with that, as well as areas where savings could happen. I showed you this information several meetings ago when we were kind of looking at the structure of the bus garage anyway. There's a spreadsheet that was shared probably about a month ago that kind of had these these costs associated there. Questions?
What's option 2, what you're recommending?
It's sort of a hybrid between the 1 and 2, yes.
It's the second. It's the second
So this
attachment.
document right
Oh,
here.
okay.
Yeah.
Does this give us the max? Well, we still have 8. We've had 8 other ones too. I'm just confused. Is this? Do we have the most available bus drivers with this one? It doesn't matter though.
What it is it's actually one fewer full-time driver, but everybody else is more flexible, able to drive.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
what I
we
meant.
can-
Able
so
to
that we
drive.
can
Yeah.
flex them into driving when we need people.
Correct.
driving, And then out when we don't.
Basically, all but one in the building and grounds and transportation would be able to drive. We currently have just one person down there, a grounds person that is not a driver. But we thought by adding a additional grounds person and driver, it gives us again more flexibility when needing an extra driver. As you know, having a sub drivers we're very short on. Having someone on staff that we can tap into and utilize by just shifting what they're doing that day gives us a little more flexibility when it comes to filling holes because of sick time, vacation time, things like that.
Any other questions or comments?
I think just the point is, and I think I put it in my notes, is that the board should, the board's gonna be asked to vote on our proposal. You don't have to be ready tonight. If you are ready tonight, that's terrific. If you're not, it's a decision for you guys to make, but when you're ready to express your perspective on this.
And we'll take up that conversation once we get to that reaction items. If there are no further questions or comments, we'll move along to the minutes. Minutes are under the consent agenda. Go to personnel matters. 7A, personnel matters, is the long-term appointment of teaching assistant. The recommended action is upon recommendation of the superintendent, approve Margie Watterson, long-term teaching assistant at the middle and high school beginning on or about October 24th, 2019 through January 5th, 2020. Salary would be a per diem rate at $143.96 for the 2019-2020 school year. May I have a motion to accept, please?
Yes.
Colleen? Thank you. And second? Thank you, Dan. Any discussion? Questions? If not, if you please vote.
Maybe that's this phone.
6-4-0 against, the motion passes. Next item is a CSEA staff retirement. Upon recommendation of the superintendent, accept the retirement of Paula Lewis, bus driver. effective April 8th, 2020. May I have a motion for this?
So moved.
Thank you, Martha. Second?
Second.
Liam?
That's me.
Thank you. Any discussion on this, comments?
Should be missed.
She's gonna be missed, and anybody who's put their pre-K student on a bus in the last few years will miss her. She's a warm soul. She does right by her kids.
Thank you. Six, 4-0 against, the motion passes. I'll make this recommended action, and then if we are not prepared, then we can postpone, but this is the bus garage reorganization approval. The recommended action is, upon recommendation of the superintendent, approve the attached reorganization of the transportation center and grounds. And I just added as presented earlier under 5B. Do I have a motion to accept this proposal?
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Martha. Discussion, comments before we...
Thank you for putting in the time to come up with
Oh, yeah.
Give us all
an
the
option.
options.
Yes.
I have 6-4-0 against, the motion passes. Thank you. Additional action items, change order approval, recommended action, be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Lake Placid Central School District hereby approves change order GC-02 for Bast Hatfield in relation to asbestos removal at the Lake Placid Middle and High School, based upon information provided to the Board of Education and placed on file with the district clerk. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Second, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Any discussion, comment on this, on the change order?
Just when do we think the asbestos will be wrapped up?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
When do you think the asbestos, do we have any idea now? Is this like the last change order for asbestos, or?
Well, we have, no, springtime, they'll be back.
But we think it's
When's this
the
over?
last
That's what I wanna know.
major- Yeah, right now it's the last major anticipated change order. You know, I can't promise that it won't happen again with the asbestos situation. They're gonna be going replacing all the pipes in the middle of high school. And they have done a lot of testing, and they've done a lot of projecting ahead. So we think we've covered all the areas that we know about up to this point. And all that worry from the summer, you know that this was the project that we finished right before the school year started. So this is long past. There are no promises when it comes to this building
Sure.
and asbestos. So we are doing some more testing just to see what we might possibly run into. We're crossing our fingers.
Okay, I vote yes.
We have 6-4-0 against, the motion passes. We had, before we enter the adjournment phase, we had some people come in. I always like to give people the opportunity if they'd like to present to the board. If we have our good of the cause, which encourages conversation at the beginning of the meeting, doesn't always work out, people come in later. So if there's anybody who would like to address the board.
Well, my name is Julie Lawrence. Since I'm not from here, I'm Ben Lawrence's wife. There's lots of Julie Lawrences. We have 2 children in the elementary school, and I am the president of our after-school program board. I took that on just this fall, and we're in the process of just making sure that we have all our ducks in a row, so I wanted to come in and introduce myself. And I've been reading through your board documents, and I see that in a lot of your strategic goals, it's community partnerships. I don't see us listed anywhere. So I was hoping that you would include us in those goals somewhere, and I'd be happy to work with you on that. And what I wanted to offer up was that I would be willing to come to the next meeting with a 5-minute PowerPoint to just share a little bit about our program. Would that work?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
Julie, we'd love to
Thanks
put
so
you on
much.
the presentation.
I'm also here in my parent role, so I'll switch hats and say, more recess? All in favor? Kids are begging me, and I'm hearing it over and over from parents too, anyone I speak to about it. So we could keep working on that. Be great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, we will enter the adjournment part of our meeting. Sorry, special ed, thank you. Special ed was consent. Are there any questions regarding the November 5th packet? If not, then we'll go to adjournment. Thank you, Dan. Next meeting, dates and location, November 5th, November 19th, and I'll stop there. It's the next month I don't want to get into yet. Old agenda topics. I've added one here. It's old or new, but self-assessment surveys, they were handed out last meeting. I have one here. So I need those back as soon as possible, please, so we can compile that and present it. That is a goal for October, correct? So please feel free to call me and I'll come pick it up from you, or if you could get it to me in some way, shape, or form.
Didn't they drop that off with me last year?
Yes, so they can drop off with Karen to keep it out of, she's the independent body, so she'll compile the data. New topic items, new agenda topic items.
Is it after school program? Is that what we put this on?
Yep.
If you don't mind, Karen has a list of good open dates or just dates for our next board meetings, and if you want to talk with her about what would work for you, we'll put you on the
I
list.
was planning on the 5th if that works, and if you've got room, so let me know.
We'll
If not,
take a look and see.
I'll make
It
time.
might be a
whenever.
full one, because
Yeah.
it's coming up soon.
That's what I figured. But whatever,
Okay.
I'll make time.
Any others? I think we'll just keep, since there's a correspondence going back and forth on the Wilmington bus routes, we'll keep that active and get updated information on that, so. Anything else? If not, I'll move to adjourn the meeting. I'll need a motion for that, please. Thank you, Dan, second.
Yeah.
Thank you, Martha. And please vote.
Whoops.
6-4.
All of you.
6-4-0 against. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Did you get all of the?
Did you guys want to do the photo with the kids' cards?
That'd be great. I do this before I come in here.